Good evening, fantasy football fans. It is another Tuesday. It's a two for Tuesday. We're on the back half. Ronnie's already a little choked up over it. This is Getting Defensive. It's time for the IDP dose of your fantasy football enjoyment this evening. Ronnie Evans is my co-host. He's dying on mute right now. I am the founder of Gridiron Ratings, Jeff DiMatteo. We're starting a couple of minutes early here. A little runway we did just so Ronnie could choke his way through the first, 60 seconds or so. Ron, how you doing?
I'm good, man. Fantasy football has been a fickle mistress for me this entire season so far, so I'm all right. I was better at this point last year.
I mean, I wouldn't call fantasy football a mistress. My wife is well aware that I was in love with fantasy football before her, so
we have an open relationship when it comes to fantasy football.
Yeah, exactly. It's like some kind of weird polygamy, but
Yeah.
just less touching. Don't tell Deshaun Watson. So
But yeah, I'm good.
Good. Well, glad to hear it. I know you went to the Falcons game this weekend, and you see anything interesting on the field there with the Dirty Birds?
Lorenzo, what's his name?
Carter.
Is it Lorenzo Carter that's on the Falcons now?
Yeah, the edge rusher.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Drafted
by the Giants, former UGA player.
So much bigger in person. He's huge.
Isn't he like 6'3", 255 or something? Like he's thick.
He's bigger than everyone on the team. Like I was hanging out down in the little fan area behind the he's bigger.
He's bigger than everybody on the team.
He's huge. So pick up Lorenzo Carter in all your fantasy football IDP leagues for no reason other than Ronnie Solomon in person. He's a big guy.
Oh gosh. Well, that sounds like a terrible take, and so I don't know if I'm going to go with that one.
It's a joke.
Here's the thing. Something we want to cover as we kind of get going here is something we don't want to do very often. We're going to hit you with a little bit of the I told you so's to get you started here. If you've been following Getting Defensive, or if you've been following the Chop Shop through the summer, and all the sleeper content we put together, through the offseason leading into the season, we gave you a handful of players out of the gate, right? We gave you Talanoa Hufanga before it was cool. We're the Hufanga hipsters, I guess, which that may become a team name for me now in some of my leagues.
I like that.
He gets a pick six last night, gets it done again. Look, the guy's piling up some tackles. He gets you the interceptions. He's out there around the football every single play. If he's available in your league, you need to go get him. He is a top 3 safety right now in PFF's ranking system. And Ronnie, I like that. Hot for Hufanga. That's good. I like your little comment here. That's wonderful. Here, we'll just put that right here. We are, in fact, hot for Hufanga. How could you not be with that hair?
Well, it's just like Troy Polamalu,
man. He plays a lot like Polamalu, I'll tell you that. And not as fast, but that's another story. Anyway, fact is, very strong player, top 3 PFF safety right now. He's getting it done in all 3 areas of the field. You definitely need to get him on your roster. He's still right around 50 to 60% owned in a lot of leagues. So you might go take a look, see if he's out there. Yeah, I hope so, because
he did too much. He had a way too big of a game this week to go unnoticed anymore.
That's kind of what I'm hoping, but we've been, thumping this guy out there for weeks and weeks. Here we are going into week 5, and I'm like, how is the industry not caught up on this guy? A couple other guys we talked about. Hey, we brought up pressure rate, right? Pressure rate's a big deal. We talked about Rashawn Gary, in the lead up. I want to say it was, right before week 1, maybe. We said, hey, Rashawn Gary's going to be a guy. Well, guess what? Rashawn Gary's a guy now. He's out there. He's piling up sacks. He's getting you tackles. They're using him in a lot of different ways, not just rushing the quarterback. If you don't have Rashawn Gary owned in your league, you need to go get him. Go put him on your roster. If you play dedicated edge, he's probably already taken. But you know what? If you're an MFL, he's a linebacker, it's hard to start him. I get it. But the kid's still putting up 17 to 20 points a week because he's getting after the quarterback and he's getting you tackles. Go get him. Get him on your roster. Quit screwing around. You're smiling and smirking here in Rashawn Gary. What you got? You got a little something for me?
I Googled him, and in the process of not Googled him, I looked him up in our home league because I like the way it shakes up the scoring. Mm-hmm. And I saw Max Crosby's stats on the season. I was just shaking my head.
Oh, gotcha. Well, what'd you see on Max Crosby? Let's hit Max Crosby. Hit old double X.
He's playing out of his freaking mind right now. I don't even want to talk actual NFL stats from an IDP standpoint. He is literally winning you weeks. And so
he's been really good. We haven't talked a lot about him because he should have been a locked-in stud for you from the jump, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
He's outperforming even though like his preseason expectation. He's the number 1 IDP player right now.
There you go. Well, that was a guy that we liked a lot. Nick Bosa is kind of in that same category, same conversation.
Yeah.
That's to do with 6 sacks already through 4 games. Like he's been a monster.
And Myles Garrett was looking like it was going to be the same thing before he got a little nicked.
Yeah, I got to stop trying to acquire players in trades. In the last few weeks, I tried to acquire Javonte Williams. He got hurt. Myles Garrett got in a car accident. I called on Joey Bosa. He got hurt. I got to just stop checking in on players because whenever I do, they seem to get hurt. So we're going to stop doing that. A couple of the guys we told you about, though, that I'm hoping you kind of get up to speed on. Nick Morrow with the Bears. The guy wears the green dot there. He's not coming off the field. He plays 100% of the snaps. He and Roquan are getting all of the tackles. You need to go have him. He can plug in immediately if you're playing in a league that requires more than 2 linebackers. He is a locked-in, top-end number 3 linebacker. So go ahead and get him. Miles Jack, hey, you could have stole this guy in your draft. You could have him at the end of the draft. Nobody wanted this guy. We did a dynasty league, Ronnie, where he went in round 28, 29, 30, something like that.
What league I have him in? No, it's the death match. Never mind.
Yeah, I mean, he went super late, and we sat here and we talked about tackle opportunity. This was a big deal. We're like, hey, the Steelers are going to have a high tackle opportunity. That was something we projected through, all the different things we project here at Gridiron Ratings and all the different measurements we take. But, when I go ahead and I pull up, let's take a look at the Steelers. Oh, look at that. They've been awarded the most tackles in the NFL at 233 so far on the year. And Miles Jack has been really freaking good, getting double digits pretty much every week. So Devin Bush, we thought he'd be a guy too. He hasn't really been anything, but Terrell Edmonds, the strong safety, has been. He's available in a lot of leagues. Go get him. We're giving you the guys every week. We're getting you the studs. You got to just keep paying attention to the shows. Go play the guys we're telling you to play, right? So we're getting you everything you need to go ahead and win. Let's talk about some guys who were studs this week, though. Ronnie, I know you were at the game. You missed the early slate. Did you see anything this week that kind of caught you and you were like, man, there's a dude. Like there's something I didn't expect.
I hate to say it, but the latter half of the games, other than good Lord.
You got
not
it?
really, actually. I didn't see anything that changed my perspective this week, especially the late slate of the games in the Monday game. Sorry.
You're all right. You're all right. How about Hassan Reddick?
Yeah.
This is a guy where, hey, 2 sacks this week. He had a tackle for loss, another QB hit. He also forced 2 fumbles, recovered both. Like Hassan Reddick was on fire this week. And he's the number 1 IDP guy for the week, hands down. It's another guy we've been talking about where it's like, hey, look, the Eagles defense is good. They're really good. You need to get a piece of it. Hassan Reddick is getting isolated on tackles, one-on-one matchups. He can win in that position. This is a guy that when given that opportunity in Arizona, guess what? He wins one-on-ones. He got you a bunch of sacks, got a fat contract in Carolina. They misused him. He got kind of, double teamed up and kind of removed from the game plan. Guess what? He goes to Philadelphia. Here we are again. 2 great defensive tackles holding things down on the inside. He's isolated again one-on-one on the outside. Expect more weeks like this where Hassan Reddick is at DL1 if you're on Sleeper, and he's maybe a linebacker, 2-ish if you're playing on MFL. Definitely worth a look if he's available in your league. Probably not. He could be even had via trade. It's that time of the year we're starting to kind of cultivate some trades. Hassan Reddick doesn't carry the name cachet, but people aren't paying attention. You might be able to steal him for a pittance.
Yeah, I like it. So what I'm referencing right now while you're talking is the scoring that we have in the Pigskin Empire. I won't go on a diatribe with that, other than to say for the listeners,
Sure.
It is incredibly nuanced, balanced scoring across the variable, scoring. And so all the players that do well generally score the same. And I'm looking at this thing. It's a very deep IDP league. And Hassan Reddick, 4th highest scoring guy in that setup this week. So kind of across the board IDP average, he seems like the 4th highest scoring guy. But going back to the 49ers for a second, Samson Ebukam had his 2nd relevant week out of 4 weeks. It's a 50% hit rate. And when you get into defensive end 2-3 status, that's about the best you're going to get.
Right.
He is a free agent in our home league, which means that he's a free agent in pretty much every league. What do you think about him? You're a Niners guy. I'm just asking with no prior knowledge on what to expect from him in fantasy other than what I know about him as a player.
You know, I like the player, but I think if we're going to see something out of him, what we need is for Nick Bosa to be on fire.
Hmm.
What needs to happen for Ebicam to be the guy is the entire pass
Okay.
protection. What's that?
I pronounce his name wrong. Keep going.
Okay.
Sorry.
For him to be relevant, we need to see a lot of those blocking schemes get kind of slid towards Nick Bosa. And you could tell the Rams were concerned about Bosa right out of the chute. There was a DraftKings prop. It was something like minus 190 for a quarter sack on Nick Bosa. I was like, I mean, that's a lock. I wish I could have gone and gotten an alternate line on that and played that at, give me a sack and a half on Nick Bosa. I'd still take the over.
Yeah.
He was on fire last night, led to Ebicam being that guy. The only thing I worry about when I see Samson is that he doesn't get enough tackles. He's not active enough in the run game. He's not active enough when he's not chasing down quarterbacks. You're talking about 47% of all of his fantasy points are coming from sacks and QB hits. If he's not doing that, he's useless. So you want to talk about a boom or a bust player? That's what we've got here in Samson Ebicam.
That would have been my expectation. I just wanted to confirm that. I brought him up because he was 49ers guy. He's also a top 15 scorer this week, and he's a free agent. So
yeah.
Keep going, though, on I Told You So's. I like those.
Okay. How about Malcolm Rodriguez? We talked about him last week, and that was another guy. Guess what? He showed up. He was a top 20 guy this week in most league formats. He had 7 solo tackles, 3 assisted tackles, 1 for loss, and he also had a QB hit. Like, this guy was all over the field, forced a fumble. He is supremely talented.
We talked about him on getting defensive or on the chop shop in the offseason in the post-draft process.
Really liked him a lot. Converted strong safety. This is another one of those guys that has a really unique outlook. Played quarterback in high school. He understands what the passer is trying to accomplish, so he can stay on the field on third down. But he's so athletic, he can stretch plays to the sideline, make plays in the backfield, strong enough to shoot gaps and take on linemen with an arm and still keep his upfield shoulder free. Really important stuff, just from a functional standpoint as a player. So physically he's doing all the right things. And truthfully, all these guys that are in on Alex Anzalone, they're going to be really upset when Malcolm Rodriguez actually outscores him this year. And so this is the beginning of it right here. We told you about him a couple weeks ago. Told you about him last week. He's still available in a bunch of leagues. Go get him. Go add him. Quit screwing around. But yeah, that was another guy I really liked again this week. Anytime you're getting a guy 7 solos and 3 assisted tackles, that feels pretty dang good.
So can I bring up a guy? I'm going to go back so I can do a little I Told You So, because I ate some egg on my face in week 1 for him with a goose egg.
Sebastian Joseph Day.
He's on pace right now. If he kept up his week 2 through 4 pace, he's on pace for 100 tackles.
I don't think he's going to get there. I'm just going to put it out there.
He's not going to, but this is why I brought him up. And if you go back to that episode, you look at the diatribe, look at what he did in Los Angeles. He's just weird. He's just a weird player for fantasy in that he plays defensive tackle. He gets random sacks, but he gets you like 5 tackles a week, like clockwork. And he has pretty much outside of 4 games over the last 2.5 years of his play. He missed some time for injury, but he's a stalwart. If you're a DT required league, he might have been dropped after week 1. He's probably not available. I don't even know if you could acquire him right now because people are probably pretty happy with him the last 2 weeks. But if you can, like, that's a dude I'm starting in a couple leagues every week, and it's so easy to plug him into lineups. He just does it. Not flashy at all.
Not flashy. He's always there getting the assisted tackle because he's always kind of on or around the pile, and that still gets you tackles, right? That they still count. So, those guys, Sebastian Joseph Day, I know you've been kind of thumping him for a while. That's a great one to add. Here we go. We actually got it's a non-defensive question here, but let's see if we can help Mark out with his question. Hey, Mark Yasko, I hope I'm saying that right. I probably completely botched that. Sorry, buddy. Should I trade DJ Moore for Devonta Smith? The only issue I have is I already have A.J. Brown.
I don't care. I would.
Yeah, we actually talked about this on the Chop Shop about an hour ago on our earlier show there, Mark. We're kind of out on DJ Moore right now. Not anything to do with DJ Moore. It's because Baker Mayfield he's a wide receiver killer. We just can't count on him to help our guys out week over week. He wants to find someone else to throw it to make himself look like a hero, I think. I love Devonta Smith. he and AJ Brown are both going to eat this week against Arizona. Both those guys really they thrive against zone coverage. And if you remove week 1, Arizona has become one of the highest usage zone scheme teams in the league. I was going to say on the planet. It's not really relevant in the league.
Technically speaking,
it's still relevant. Still works. But no, these guys should both eat against the zone coverage. Arizona's defense isn't any good. I'll play both those guys, and what I'll do is right after this week, I'll try and shuffle one of them back out the door and see if I can
Perfect.
get something bigger. Do it.
So that was going to be my answer, my strategy. Like literally the moment I saw this trade, accept that. If it's on the table for you, go hit it right now, Mark. Hit accept. They'll play this week. Then the moment Devonta Smith blows up again, which might be this week, go and trade him for a better asset. You can get out of that timeshare, but it's not going to hurt you if you have both of them for a few weeks. You'll still be fine. Devonta Smith will do more for you in your lineup, having 2 wide receivers on the Eagles, than DJ Moore will do for you in your lineup, having wide receivers on separate teams.
It's going to be really funny when they try to bracket AJ Brown with Isaiah Simmons and a corner, and they still can't cover him. So both those guys are going to eat this week. It's going to be great. Smash accept.
Pull your phone out and go accept that trade.
Yeah, exactly. Go accept, trade them, flip one of those guys next week for a more advanced asset, and you'll be off and running. Maybe see if you can send AJ Brown after this week for Jamar Chase.
Yeah,
Jamar Chase is going to do his thing.
You might be able to get fun with AJ Brown because Devonta Smith's going to be perfectly fine as a fantasy player this year.
Absolutely. Or even Devonta Smith could be flexed up for someone else. Maybe somebody will see the numbers and go, "Oh, I'll trade you, a functional asset or 2 for Devonta Smith."
Can we just tangent for 40 seconds real quick? Just one last thing on this.
Sure.
If you run into this scenario, which has happened to me before, where I have had 2 assets and somebody has come at me for the lesser asset because they don't think I'll trade the better one.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have been able to get so much from that person by then saying, well, hey, why, I know I've got Josh Jacobs, but what about Saquon Barkley? And they give me half their team. You might be able to pull that off here. If you're able to go in and open up a couple dialogues with Devonta Smith in the next couple of weeks, and then just counterpunch him with AJ Brown halfway through your negotiations, you might get a huge return. So anyway,
there you go.
Just a side thought.
Cool. I can dig it. Go get it, Mark. Thanks for watching. Let's see. Okay, so let's hop back in on the on some of the defensive talk. We covered a few of the weekly studs we like, right? We covered some of the I told you so's. We've got a little. We've got some waiver guys we want to talk about. Who are some guys we want to add? If you want to see the whole list, go to gridironratings.com, go to the strategy page. At the bottom, you'll see waiver ads for the week. We update that every Tuesday or Wednesday. We actually got it done earlier today, so it's all up to date now. Let's go ahead and fire that up for you here. Let's see. Boop. See if I hit the right buttons. Got to hit the right buttons. Let's see. What do we got here? And number 1. Houston Texans defensive lineman Rasheem Green. I don't know if it's Rasheem or Rasheem.
Rasheem Green, former Seahawk.
Rasheem Green. So we've got him listed as our DL1 in terms of waiver ads this week. So far in the year, 10 solo tackles for a D lineman. I'll take that, especially considering he didn't play week 1. So you're talking, it's about 3 solos a week, 5 assisted tackles, 2.5 sacks. Like, this guy's getting into it. Here's what I really love about the player. As a defensive lineman in this league, he's still seeing 56% of the snaps. Now, he played 0% week 1. He didn't play week 1. So you got to take a look at that number and remember he had a 0 in week 1. So it's really probably closer to 70% of the snaps for the last 3 weeks. 53% of all of his fantasy points are coming off of tackles, which means there's something you can replicate. There's something you can get week over week over week. He's owned in 20% of MFL leagues, 0% of sleeper leagues. It's another one of those guys. It's kind of prime to prop. Prime to prop. Prime to pop.
Prop and prop.
Yep, we're popping bottles here with Rasheem Green. So Rasheem Green, God. And I keep saying Rasheem. Why do I keep saying that? Rasheem Green. I'm so bad at names.
Well, here, I'll cut in for you because your tongue is being stupid right now.
It's all swollen.
Rasheem Green, the whole tackle upside with him, just to tie back into that, defensive line is super fluky outside of the top 3 or 4 guys, and even they are. The only thing that is better than owning Nick Bosa is owning one of the 5 to 7 defensive linemen not named Nick Bosa that get 5 to 6 tackles a week. Because they give you a sack worth of tackles, a sack and a half each week, but people don't pay attention to that. They look for sacks.
Hidden points.
I love it.
Collect your hidden points. This is a guy that, I'm just looking ahead. I'm looking at Houston, and they have 225 tackles awarded this season. That's good for second in the NFL. It's a huge tackle opportunity, and this guy's making the most of it. He's around the football a lot. Go ahead and take a look at that guy. Gotta love it. Let's go ahead.
Hey, you want to do a former Seahawk real quick for waivers? A second one?
Well, I've actually got someone already queued up.
All right, go.
Let's hit our number 2 guy that we like here. It's actually our linebacker 1, my man Zaire Franklin. Now I know people are going to say, "Wait, what? Why? What? Shaq Leonard is back, not back, got a concussion, doesn't have a concussion." Fact is, he played 100% of the snaps last week again.
Mm-hmm.
Shaq Leonard was on the field in the first quarter. Didn't matter. This guy is a player. He's an absolute gamer. Shaq Leonard, I'm going to go ahead and plant the flag here, is not the player that he has been. The back injury, now the possible concussion, possibly a shoulder, possibly a head injury. Weird reports coming out of Indianapolis right now. He's probably not playing Thursday. You're getting another stud level production this Thursday night from Zaire Franklin. 30 solo tackles so far on the season, 15 assisted, 96% of his points coming off the tackle, playing 100% of the snaps in the year. He's only rostered in 35% of MFL leagues, 0% of sleeper leagues. I don't know what everybody's doing and why they're sleeping on this guy, but I'm playing in a keeper league where I told my buddy who had Shaq Leonard, I said, "What are you doing? Go add Zaire Franklin. Like, are you out of your mind?" Like, I should have added him. I don't know what I was thinking. I said, "Go get Zaire Franklin. You need him to go with Shaq Leonard." He went and he got got Zaire Franklin, 25 points. No big deal. He went and sat him this week in favor of putting in Shaq Leonard, who got him 1.5 points. Zaire Franklin got him 20 again on the bench. Franklin is an absolute monster. In balanced scoring leagues, he's a near lock for 20 points. It makes him a linebacker 1 week over week as long as he is in the lineup.
I love that. So he's also the number 1 waiver ad on a couple other sites. So that is
he's been our number 1 for 2 weeks. We're running it back with this guy. This is not our first rodeo with Franklin.
Another reason to pay attention to Gridiron Ratings.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying our best to be out in front of people here. We talked about Franklin. Actually, I think this might be our 3rd week in a row on Franklin. I'll have to go back and review the shows.
Well, let's go back to preseason. End of preseason show. We talked about Shaq Leonard for a good 5-7 minutes, and we're pretty much just like we're out. And it was a combination of everything we're seeing right now, plus him saying that he might retire because he doesn't have it in him anymore to play football. You hear that from a guy in the offseason. His back screws up again. He gets a concussion, and now he's missing time, and it's weird. I hate it. I hate the whole situation, and I hate it mostly because I love him. He was one of my favorite players in IDP for a good couple of years there. And so it's a bummer to see. But typically know what we're talking about on here, especially with IDP stuff. I can't claim to be a savant when it comes to offensive on the chop shop, but whatever.
Fact is, Franklin, if you've got Shaq Leonard, you 100% need to have Franklin on your roster. And then to make it a little bit better, even after Leonard comes back, you need to keep Franklin on your roster just in case. He's an insurance policy. You might start them both. This could be a situation where we're in week 10 and people still aren't rostering him because they're going to say, "Oh, well, Darius Leonard, Shaq Leonard." I don't think it's going to matter. Get this guy on your roster, stash him. If you've got Leonard, you're starting him. If you don't have Leonard, you're starting him right now. When Leonard comes back, you're probably stashing him. Do not let this guy sit on your waiver wire any longer. Go get him, roster him again. Quit screwing around. We know who these guys are now. We have 4 weeks worth of data. We know what's happening. Go get the good players on your team.
Love it.
So let's go ahead and hit our next one. I only did 3 of them in terms of like the big slides that I want to talk about, and then we'll kind of just do some passing mentions on some other guys here. Sure. But the next one I've got here, Frankie.
Oh,
Carolina Panthers.
I missed him in Fab in a couple leagues a few weeks ago, and I've just hated it every week. He's been so good.
We're running it back with this guy again. We told you about him last week. We told you to go get after Luvu. We brought him up 2 weeks ago as kind of one of our longer shot ads. Probably didn't even have to use a single dollar 2 weeks ago to go get him. And here we are, Frankie Luvu out here still putting up big time points, getting after it. I mean, he's averaging right now, if you're in a balanced scoring league, he's getting you like 22 a week right now. Like, it's absolutely bonkers. He's a guy that needs to be had. He actually plays kind of that run and hit style backer. gets you a little bit in coverage. He gets you a whole lot tackling wise. Definitely a functional dude that you need to go out and line up, even if you're sticking him on the bench for a few weeks, but you got to have him. 88% of his points coming from tackles. The other 11% is coming from coverage related plays, pass defense, interception, etc. So that's pretty clutch. You definitely want guys that can do it both ways like that, kind of like a Fred Warner type dude. And Frankie Louvu this week was the number 4 player in IDP, had himself that pick 6, pass defended, 7 solo tackles, another tackle for loss. This guy's all over the dang field. Again, stop waiting. Go get this guy, put him on your roster before you can. You already have to spend fab on him now. We told you 2 weeks ago you didn't have to spend any fab then.
I love it.
So
I love it. Like I said, he breaks my heart. I don't own him anywhere. I missed out. Everyone got him in like week 2.
Yeah, I've got a couple leagues where I can still get him probably for free because they're a little more shallow on the IDP side. But still, that's a guy where, if you're playing more than, say, 5 or 6 IDPs, he needs to be rostered now. We're beyond the point of screwing around and letting him just sit out there and hoping he's kind of still hanging around. You need to add him, drop some of these other guys that aren't doing anything for you, and go bring in Frankie Louvu.
Yep.
A couple other guys we already mentioned. Nick Morrow, 37% rostered in MFL leagues. Definitely a guy worth talking about. We keep bringing up Willie Gay at 22.5% rostered. He's going to be back. When he's back from his suspension, this is at least a 15-point a week guy, big time tackler. He's going to really help out that defense. You mentioned a former Seahawk. I want to hear who you had on your mind.
Yeah. So Jaron Reed.
Okay. Jaron Reed. Let's hear about it.
I brought him up for 2 reasons. First of all, he big week this week, 8 tackles. I believe he got a sack as well. And he's flirted around with stuff. I watched him play in Seattle for quite a few years, and he's always been like a good player, but never like really elite, but he's had pops. And he's a guy that also, I believe he has dual eligibility on Sleeper. They have a juicy matchup this week. So if he's out there, I think he's worth adding, even if you're only keeping him on your team for a few weeks. But if you're in a situation where even if you lost, like, let's say you're sitting without Joey Bosa right now, and you're like, what do I do on my DL? You might be able to just go get him for free and play him for 3 or 4 weeks. You'll be okay.
Well, in Seattle, we talk about tackle opportunity, right? 214 tackles awarded. Yeah, that's good for 6th in the NFL. So there's a lot of tackles
he's on
there.
The Packers now.
Oh, I'm sorry. You said former Seahawk.
Former Seahawk.
I'm a big dummy. I don't know where I am right now. Well, the Green Bay Packers.
Wrong
yeah,
team.
I mean, yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's plenty more caffeine at 8:30 at night, apparently.
Well, like we said at the start of the show or start of the Chop Shop 2 hours ago, crazy 7 days for Jeff and I.
It's been wild. More plumbing than I care to ever do again. But anyway, the Packers actually don't have a ton of tackle opportunity. They're one of the bottom 5 teams out there. So if he's getting it done right now, you might go ahead and just take those couple weeks where he's going to pop and then run, right? I'm a big fan if you're in keeper leagues. If you can get a player and he pops for a couple of weeks and then you can spin him off for a mid-round draft pick, I love doing that. And I just pile up picks between rounds like 6 and 12. It's like, because I'll just keep finding the guys in the waiver wire, right? And it's, if you're listening to the show, we'll give you those guys. We got some comments here. What do we got here? Oh, that's Ronnie's pick. We got, here we go. Ronnie's pick of the week. Tell me about DeMar Hamlin for Buffalo.
Micah Hyde's done, and I'm not celebrating that, but he's gone, and it's a bummer. I actually own him in one league. I'm pretty annoyed.
You roster him.
Huh?
We don't. You roster him. We don't own people around here. We roster people around here.
This is Dynasty League. And
sorry, folks.
So DeMar is the starting safety now in Buffalo next to Jordan Poyer for the rest of the season. He put up 15 points last year in about a half game's worth of snaps. He's my number 1 ad because I don't draft safeties. I hate safeties. There's so many. So this is the time of the year where I typically will fill out my safety spot and be good to go for the rest of the year. He's a guy that if I can pick him up right now, I'm probably going to start him for the rest of the year as my safety too.
I can dig it. Well, I'll tell you what, before we bounce off to the next thing here, we've got another question. It's offensive related, but let's pop it up. Nick Popich. I hope I said that right. I apologize if I butchered it. Lamar, CMC, Lenny, Jamar, Ceedee, Kelsey, Godwin, Judy, Jacoby Myers, Isaiah McKenzie, Romeo Doubs, Rashad White. you got on the IR Jameson Williams. This is a chip-winning team, 10-man PPR. He's 4-0 right now. Thank you. Well, no, thank you, Nick, for tuning in. And this squad looks pretty dang good to me. I like the idea of having Jamar long-term here. I love getting Jameson Williams back on the back half. We talked about Judy on the chop shop as being a high upside guy right now with no running game in there. I like Godwin because even though he keeps getting nicked, the guy keeps getting numbers. Even Dubs, I think that's the guy in Green Bay that you want to own. Dude, this roster looks pretty legit. I'm a little skittish about Isaiah McKenzie, but if that's your only question mark, shit, dude, that's a pretty nice roster. Congratulations.
I'd go flip one of those wide receivers for running back depth.
You don't want to try and just handcuff up what you got here.
You can't really handcuff CMC. That's going to be a mess if he goes down.
Oh, it's Chuba.
Those guys
it'll be Chuba if he goes down. They like Chuba a lot.
Chuba, like we've seen what Chuba is, I think, at this point, which is
a 2,000-yard rusher at Oklahoma State
for sure.
He's not the same guy.
He's not the same player he was at Oklahoma State.
I like White. They got him in the end zone though.
I love Chuba
player. Yeah. So you can flip one of these guys for a running back or something. I might wait for more running back attrition to set in before I start doing that.
That's a fair strategy too.
Yeah, it's if something happens to Lenny and you're down to CMC and White, then I'm like, all right, let's go ahead and package up a receiver to somebody who's needy for a running back. Maybe you go get a guy like a Montgomery or somebody like that can fill in.
If Pickens is somehow still available, I'd go pick him up and drop McKenzie.
Oh, there you go. What about because in a 10-man, Pickens could be. Yeah. Something I would actually really like to do is go check on the guy who's got Eli Mitchell. And so if that guy, he's obviously sitting on the IR right now. I know you got Jameson Williams in the IR slot, but if you can go ahead and acquire an injured player who's going to come back and be a stud down the stretch, that could be a useful strategy too. Because Elijah Mitchell, when he comes back, he's going to be a monster. And you could probably get him for nothing from the guy who's getting goose eggs from him right now.
Yeah, we closed out the chop shop with a discussion about the scenarios you can get into. And you're in one of the rarer scenarios that hopefully a lot of people are in with at least one of their teams where you're winning the league so far.
Yeah.
But that can all fall apart. And your team in particular, like if CMC misses the rest of the season, which like I'm not going to predict injuries, but put a gun to my head, I'd say, well, he might be one of the more likely ones. It could get rough. So definitely start making moves right now. Our advice for people in that situation was just don't get complacent. Do exactly what you're doing. Get on podcasts, go out, ask people for advice, get expert roster management that show you're killing it.
Dude, I love the comments here. So he was going to wait on running back, and that's cool. Pickens is already taken. But I love this comment. I'm going to post this one up here. He already tried Elijah Mitchell. My buddy's emotionally connected to him, and won't let him go.
I can understand that. Somebody tried to trade me a 2023 first for Sky Moore preseason. I said no, like an idiot.
Well, you are emotionally attached to Sky Moore. I really feel like if there's a Sky Moore fan club, you should be the president. But Nick, hey, the strategy's there. Glad to see you're already out in front of it. Your process is correct. Don't push it, though, to add a player if it's not the right fit. Make sure you're getting value in return because you're in the driver's seat, man. You're 4-0. You don't have to move. You know what I mean? Let the league come to you.
Go trade for Raheem Mostert.
The hoster.
I'm going to counter what Jeff just said.
I mean, I wouldn't rush out to go get Mostert with that roster. I don't think that makes sense. You need to cut a couple guys.
Isaiah McKenzie.
I mean, you could dump Isaiah McKenzie for a running back. I could see that.
That was my comment earlier. It was like McKenzie, go pick up someone, even if it's a rando backup. Just hold that handcuff.
Yeah, for sure.
He's not going to play for you.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. But cool. Right. Well, Nick, great work with that build. We love it. Thanks for tuning in, buddy. Let's see. So what do we have on deck next? Mostert's on waivers, he said. Hey, Mostert's on waivers?
Oh, dude, pull the trigger on that tonight.
Go get Mostert, drop Isaiah McKenzie.
That's easy.
I love it. Done and done. All right, so let's see. Let me refer to my notes here and see what we have on deck here. So we've got we talked about Frankie Louvu and how much we like him. Little man crush action there. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing our screen here. Let's do that. Let's get back in the proper view. Are you voguing? What's happening right now?
I'm just looking at how cute I look.
Let's look ahead to week 5 a little bit. You mentioned a juicy matchup for some of your guys. That you like. You want to see Jaron Reed really pop off. I'm sitting here staring at a guy like Nick Bosa. This week's got Carolina. I don't know who's going to block that guy this week. We usually don't talk about prop bets on the show, but if you're in an area where you can hop in and place prop bets, on DraftKings or FanDuel or whatever, I'd be looking for that prop to see if there's anything out there for Nick Bosa's sack numbers. And I wouldn't be afraid of throwing a few bucks at a Nick Bosa sack against Carolina. So that's a guy that's got a super clutch matchup. Looking at a couple of other ones that are really exciting here. Kind of pumped about seeing DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons take on the Rams.
I was about to bring up Parsons.
Yeah, I mean, the Rams can't block anybody. Ronnie, I think you and I could line up as defensive ends right now and punish that Rams O-line. It's going to be a rough year for Matt Stafford, I think. But yeah, just a couple guys that have some juicy matchups there. If you go and check out the start-sit charts on gridironratings.com, go to the strategy page. It's right at the top. You can click them out by position. We've got them on offense and defense. You can kind of get a feel for how we view these players this particular week. You're going to see some names up there that'll be on waivers potentially. You'll see some guys that you're like, wait, why is this guy so high? The matchup is super juicy. We generally skew the start-sits to, hey, have they produced? Good. Or do they have a juicy matchup? Even better. Do they get snaps? Lock them in. That's the strat. The whole formula is not that difficult. So take a look at that. It'll definitely help you out in terms of roster lineup construction, roster building, and hey, maybe you'll find a few extra guys in your waiver wire that'll help out this week. But yeah, those are a couple of the juicier matchups that I like. Ronnie, is there anybody standing out besides the aforementioned that you're excited about this week?
Pete Werner, I think, could be huge this week.
A lot of guys like him right now.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what else.
Quietly, TJ Edwards has been really good again. He's always really good.
I mean, he had a great matchup last week.
Yeah. And
he's been really good.
Arizona.
I don't know, man. I'm kind of just I mean, you already know mine. That's the safety over there in Buffalo. But beyond that, I got nothing. Nothing. Not to say I don't know anything. I just don't have anything groundbreaking. Like
that's okay. You don't know anything. It's fine. Just say it. Just admit it. That's what I do. I don't know shit. And I tell people that all the time. Here's something I would look at if you're making some trades and bouncing around your league. Another guy that you can probably get for free right now is Patrick Queen. Most fantasy analysts just hate this guy, but he's good for about 15 points a week. He's just always around the ball. He still hasn't been forced off the field by Kyle Hamilton, Chuck Clark, and those guys yet. He still is playing, the bulk of the snaps here. There's no reason not to like this guy right now. He's playing over 65 snaps a game. He's worth adding, especially if you're going to plug him in as a linebacker, 3, 4, 5. Like, that's a screaming value. Or if you've got some guys that are banged up and you're desperate, that's a guy you can probably go get on the cheap, and he'll get you some production to offset your injury losses. But yeah, I think that's the gist of where we're at for week 4 going into week 5.
Yeah, I'm looking through numbers right now in matchups just to see if there's anything that really sticks out, and I think we've kind of covered everything. I got nothing here. I mean, start of the show, Talanoa Hufanga.
Talanoa Hufanga.
That's the dude. And him, Frankie Louvu, the one that we brought up that I don't own anywhere. Burns my heart. Those two guys. If you got them right now, you're feeling like a pretty smart person in IDP fantasy football.
Yep, and we hope that you're following the advice. We hope that you're winning games and championships.
Watch the show. You'd own them both.
You'd roster them both. So we got to use the right terms here, Ronnie. God, jeez, can't take you anywhere. You're the worst. I guess we better get out of here before Ronnie offends somebody. So with that, he is Ronnie A. Evans, found on Twitter. I can't talk. Twitter at Ronnie A. Evans, the tweeters. I am Jeff DiMatteo, found at NFL_DiMatteo. We are with Gridiron Ratings at Gridiron Rating. No S on the Twitter handle. Hit us up. Let us know if you have questions. Ping us in the comments. Stop by the site. Check out some of the cool images we're building. We got kind of like a weird, it's like an Instagram.
Dude, stop by the site and then give us feedback on the next
show.
We
want to know, give us some thoughts on kind of some of the images. Yeah, we're not doing the written content like some other sites are. Everything's done in pictures, man. Pictures worth 10,000 words. So take a look. We're updating it constantly. But we'll see you next week. See you guys. I'm going to hit a button. Oh, wait, I got to hit shit, I forgot. I lost the button. This is why I can't. Bye. This is the end of the show, but Jeff can't find the button, so. Oh gosh.
Oh, we're back. You ended
We're
it.
back. Uh-oh, we're back. We got a comment.
Bye.
Oh, wait.